What is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and in today's video we're going to be building a great value B560 gaming PC build with Intel's latest, greatest and more affordable CPUs. In this video I'm going to cover off all the components I selected and why, and explain my recommendations, put this system together and then boot it up to see exactly how it performs, testing a load of the most popular titles including Apex Legends, Fortnite at high and competitive settings to get the maximum FPS possible, Cyberpunk 2077 and many more. So without any further ado, let's dive into it after a quick word from today's video sponsor. Today's video has been made possible by Shop2Gar, an app and Chrome extension that uses clever tech to make sure you never miss a coupon code or price drop ever again. Let me give you an example. Here in the UK, the weather's gone up by a whole 3 degrees, which got me in the mood for some new swim shorts. I added the Shop2Gar Chrome extension and then went on to Ted Baker. It happens that they had a 2% cashback on Ted Baker, which allowed me to save some money. It also, of course, works on some of the biggest technology sites in the world, so you guys at home can get some great deals on tech like this. Simply sign up for Shop2Gar and add it to your browser. Once you've done so, this handy little button appears. Here you can actually save your most frequently shopped items and it will alert you when there's a price drop. Once you've added items, you can organize them into multiple wish lists to shop more intelligently and limit those impulse buys. You can also see on screen now how Shop2Gar searches the web to find the best coupon codes out there. This is actually a special feature for web, which is really cool. And you can even earn cashback on PayPal with select partners. Get Shop2Gar today on both your phone and your PC for maximum savings. And I'll link the app and the web download down at the first link in the description below. Let's kick things off as always by installing the CPU into the motherboard. And for the CPU, I've got one of Intel's latest 11th generation chips. This is the brand new Intel Core i5-11600K. Now these chips actually come in more affordable than the new Ryzen 5 5600X, which is really exciting. What that means is that this chip doesn't necessarily need to be quite as powerful as a 5600X. It still needs to be good enough for a build like this, but at the price point, it could be a really great option in 2021. Now, one of the disadvantages of Intel CPUs is that you have to spend a lot of money on a motherboard to get overclocking support. This is a very affordable board on the B560M chipset. Intel, I see what you did there. You're taking B550, adding 10, making yourselves look like kings of the castle. We've all figured you out. This board is potentially a very viable option. With the fast clock speeds out of the box on the 11600K, we don't necessarily need the extra performance of overclocking, and many of you guys don't want to overclock anyway. You do still get RAM overclocking support though, which is an advantage of the latest 11th gen chips. They can handle much quicker RAM than previous generations, which should help with performance. This is a great board with a really nice aesthetic. You've got support for Gen 4 NVMe SSDs. You get Wi-Fi 6E, which is the latest super fast Wi-Fi standard, as well as plenty of USB ports, including USB-C. So this is potentially a really great board option from MSI at a price point that simply doesn't break the bank. This i5-11600K is a very exciting proposition actually. Don't underestimate Intel's 11th gen launch from a value point of view. With a base clock speed of 3.9 GHz, which is not, mega impressive, but an all-core boost clock speed actually of 4.6 GHz. If that wasn't enough, one of your cores will actually boost right up to 4.9 GHz as well, which is great for the games that are really heavy on single-threaded performance. For example, the likes of CSGO, Valorant, even Apex Legends are all pretty single-core heavy titles. As I alluded to earlier as well, the latest Intel CPUs are actually capable of handling some slightly quicker memory speeds. This 3200 MHz kit from ADATA's XPG brand is an awesome choice for that very reason. 3200 MHz will give you a bit of a gaming edge. It seems for the first time that Intel CPUs are now a little bit more fussed by fast memory speed, something which has been really important for Ryzen CPUs essentially from day one, really. 16 gigabytes is going to be more than enough for a build like this. 32 gigs is overkill and doesn't really fit with the value theme today. That brings us nicely on to the next component choice, our SSD. Now this is Seagate's Barracuda 510. It is a fast NVMe drive with speeds up to around 3.4 gigabytes per second. Now it isn't a Gen 4 NVMe drive, which of course is a standout feature of the Intel 11th Gen platform. Gen 4 drives, though, is still a bit too expensive, really, for a build like this. So I'm happy to say that the Seagate Barracuda 510 is an awesome choice. Now, to install this, we're missing something. We are missing the famous teeny tiny screwdriver, which we know is very popular here on the channel. This heatsink is a nice addition. It is going to be a little bit overkill, but we'll definitely take advantage of it. With the CPU and the RAM installed, it brings us nicely on to the cooling for the processor. Now, while this chip is about $39, $40 cheaper than the Ryzen 5 5600X, it doesn't come with a stock cooler, which is a bit of a problem because it means you've got to go and buy one. It is worth noting, though, a recent video we did where we tested out the impact of different CPU coolers on your FPS. We actually found a cooler like this could give you 10% more frame rate in some titles than an AMD stock cooler. And while this is a bit more expensive, 10 FPS is a pretty massive difference in quite a lot of titles out there. I always find installing the cooler is the most complicated and tiresome bit. In our build today, we've just popped a backplate through the back of the motherboard, and then we need to pop these stoppers on before finally going ahead and securing the heatsink into place. Also, don't forget your thermal paste, because if you forget your thermal paste, you're about to have a very bad day. That'll do us very nicely indeed. There we go. And then the cooler simply slots onto the top. It's always a good idea to do these screws bit by bit. Don't completely do each screw one by one, as your cooler is just more difficult to install that way. Kind of go in laps, really, around the cooler a few times until you're comfortable that each one is nice and tight. We're going to pop the heatsink fan on a bit later and leave that off for the moment while we go ahead and install into the case choice today. This case is from a lesser known brand called TechWare, and it's actually an awesome value option for today's build. It's the Forge M, and it actually comes equipped with a really nice tempered glass side panel that swings open on a nice door. We've got loads of peels today. Inside the chassis, you actually get 4 RGB fans, and that's a pretty great bonus actually for a case of this price point, with most importantly a really nice mesh front that's going to make your airflow awesome, and actually a pretty solid front I/O with a power button, LED switch, reset button, USB 3, USB 2, headphone and microphone jack ports. There's quite a lot of options on there, quite a versatile case, and is in a micro ATX form factor, which, as you guys will know, is my favorite case size out there, especially for the more value-oriented builder. You can see if we hover our motherboard into the case that it's actually a really awesome fit, and this build is going to look really compact, perfect for like a bedroom gaming setup, and I'm hoping there's just about going to be enough room for our graphics card later as well. I'm a bit nervous now, but let's go ahead and screw the motherboard into place with its built-in I/O shield, which saves us a step, and go from there. Awesome stuff. That brings us nicely on to our power for today's build. And I've gone for the Corsair CX650F. You need this to take the clean power from the wall and split it up for each of your components. This power supply actually has a bit of RGB, which I know is just completely and utterly overkill. But what it does have that perhaps isn't quite so overkill is a really nice fully modular interface. It means you only plug in the cables you need, and 650 watts is the ideal amount for a 3060 build. That also gives us a little bit of upgradability as well in there. You don't want to go too overkill with this, but also a reputable manufacturer is a must for a power supply in any system, in my opinion. There we have it. That's actually starting to look pretty good now. I'm quite liking this build, actually. Now, this is the MSI RTX 3060. This is the Gaming X Trio version, which is a bit controversial because of its recommended retail price. As everybody knows, these GPUs are basically impossible to get your hands on right now. Forget about RRPs. That isn't to say that you should pay hugely over the odds for a 3060 card, but if you can find a 3060 in stock, and I know that some of you guys have managed it, then I really would urge you to go ahead and buy one at a price that you feel comfortable with. The 3060 is a fantastic card, and I would be recommending this every day of the week if the stock situation was a little bit better. I do think this build is really ready for 2021 and beyond though, so if we start to see stocks improve in a few months when, you know, ships stop getting stuck in canals, then that might help the market situation. This card is, I think, just about going to fit in our... Right, now guys and girls, on paper, this GPU fits, but so far, as the Spaniards would say, no bueno. Right, let's try and remove the PCIe slots first, and then maybe we might have to take a front fan out. I'm hoping it won't come to that, though. Oh, go on. Yes. Oh, no. Oh, I've left the PCIe cover on. I have no idea how I'm going to get this graphics card out of this system. Yeah! Now, this case and GPU do fit by 7mm, but that was way more of a squeeze than I thought. Thankfully, Techware weren't lying about their specifications. They were close. It was almost a no-bueno moment, but I think we've just about saved it. And I think, actually, that's a really nice segue to us actually turning the system on for the very first time. We're going to jump into some benchmarks in just a moment, so hang tight. But let's actually see if this build powers up for the first time on camera. But before we do that, let's just plug the graphics card up and screw it in to stop it from, you know, flopping about. Here we go. In 3, in 2, caught you out. In 1, it's powered up. Oh my goodness, that looks good. The fan on the cooler isn't lit up yet because we haven't plugged the RGB cable in. The GPU looks good. The case looks great. And that's looking pretty damn good. We do have a remote control as well, so we can turn them off, turn them on. We can change the colors: blue, purple, orange, white. Nice, I like that. Addressable kind of RGB mode as well. Aha, there we go. That's the one I was looking for. I think what we need to do now, though, is plug it up to a monitor and see how it performs, as I say, in some of the most popular titles out there. First, though, let's take a dive and see exactly how it looks when it's all powered up in an epic glam montage. Roll the montage. Awesome stuff. Now we've seen just how good this system looks when it's all powered up, let's take a dive into the land of performance. On your screen now is a snapshot, a summary view of all the different games we tested out, as well as some temperature numbers. These temperature numbers are really impressive, with the beefy RTX 3060 cooler and high airflow Techware case really showing their worth here. If you would like to see the full unedited benchmark runs of all these titles, go and check out the playlist in the card section now on our new benchmarking YouTube channel called Benched. For now though, let's take a delve into some of our focus titles and kick things off with GTA 5. Tested in the game's inbuilt benchmarking mode at 1080p high settings, we got 118 FPS on average, with 106 and 97 for the 90 and 99th percentile results, and this is tested with MSI's Riva Tuner, as well as Nvidia's FrameView application in the in-game benchmarking mode. We also tested the latest Call of Duty Cold War at 1080p high settings with DLSS set to performance. In the Zombies mode in an online multiplayer map, we got 123 FPS on average, with 99 and 86 for the 90 and 99th percentile results. Our Warzone numbers were slightly better as well, so if you're more of a COD Warzone fan, then this system has definitely got you covered. We also, of course, tested out Apex Legends at 1080p high settings. Turn in the FPS limit off to get more than 144 FPS in the Origin launcher. At 1080p high, we got 163 FPS on average, with 140 and 127 for the 90 and 99th percentile results, meaning this system stayed above 127 FPS at virtually the entire time. Valorant is next up today and probably the easiest game we tested, but still incredibly popular. Here at 1080p high settings again, for me this build is a 1080p system through and through. We got 342 FPS on average, with 297 and 264 for the 90 and 99th percentile results. But what if you want to play some more demanding titles on this system? What if you want those games that only just hit 60 FPS? Well, in Cyberpunk 2077, you'll be pretty pleased with our results. First, at 1080p medium settings with DLSS set to performance and RTX disabled, so no ray tracing, we got 101 FPS on average, which is a pretty good number for Cyberpunk. But of course, where Cyberpunk really shines, quite literally actually, is when you enable Nvidia's ray tracing tech. And I'm glad to announce that our frame rate, while obviously it did drop, it only dropped to 64, 56 and 51 for the average 90 and 99th percentile results respectively. You could game in Cyberpunk at 1440p without too many issues, but I'd say 1080 is where this system really excels, as you can see from some of the Apex gameplay behind me. That brings me on nicely to the final title we tested today, and easily the most popular on our gaming benchmark roster, Fortnite. We tested at both 1080p high and 1080p competitive settings, so hang on in there. At 1080p high settings, we got a very good 152 FPS on average, with 132 and 109 for the 90 and 99th percentile results. Dropping down to 1080p competitive settings, so low settings across the board with render distance set to far as an exception to that rule, and DLSS on performance mode, and boy, did we get some frames. More specifically, we got 242 frames per second on average, with 218 and 192 for the 90 and 99th percentile results. That is mental. And on that note, that pretty much wraps up our gaming benchmark testing today and subsequently the whole video. If you enjoyed today's build, make sure you drop a like rating, get subscribed and turn notifications on if you'd like to see more from me. Links to all the components will be in the description below. Thank you for watching though, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.